Welcome to Fear and Greed, the week ahead. I'm Sean Aylmer, and as always, this time on a Monday morning, I'm joined by economist Stephen Koukoulas. You'll find him at thekouk.com and on Twitter using the handle thekouk, THEKOUK. Stephen, good morning.
Very good morning, Sean.
What a week the last week's been. How about that Reserve Bank, eh?
Reserve Bank, and then the governor maybe just hosing down some of his hawkishness. So that was a interesting thing. Obviously, the fun and frivolity of the US payrolls on Friday night. So it was all happening, as they say.
So let's talk about the Reserve Bank. They obviously lifted interest rates, 25 basis points, but then the governor, Philip Lowe, spoke. And certainly the sense by the end of it all is that perhaps rates won't go as far, or maybe I'm overreading that. I don't want to use the word hawkish here, Stephen. I want to use something in English. We didn't end the week thinking that rates were going to be a lot higher than where we started the week.
Indeed, it was one of those funny ones because the market reacted by actually having money market yields, money market interest rates, falling when they were being increased in official interest rate terms. So that was because in the statement that accompanied the rate hike on Tuesday, plus Dr. Lowe spoke at a financial review conference the following morning, he did acknowledge, and something that's evident, the economy is slowing, inflation has peaked, and the unemployment rate is edging up. So if you sort of were to perhaps extrapolate those assessments of the economy, weaker growth, higher unemployment, lower inflation, and the fact that there's already now 350 basis points of interest rate hikes in the kitty, so to speak, and they haven't had their full effect on the economy, the market sort of thought, well, maybe there's not a whole lot more that the RBA is going to do. They're going to sit back and actually look at the data. And maybe, just maybe, this is the peak or very, very near the peak of the interest rate hiking cycle.
Okay. Now, one piece of data they do want to look at is the employment market in Australia. We have labour force figures out this week, but it just seems to me the central bank and Philip Lowe, the governor, just seems pretty comfortable with the labour market.
They are, and in fact, one of the things that they touched on too, they're still concerned that the labour market is tight, that it's very hard to find labour, and that even though, 2 weeks ago or so, we had the relatively subdued wage price index coming in, below market expectations, but they're still worried that this tight labour market's going to feed into future wage pressures. And look, it's a legitimate concern when you've got a sub 4% unemployment rate, which we still currently have. And that's sort of why he still has a bias to hike interest rates. And as we just discussed, whether he acts on that bias remains to be seen. And, and as you touched on, one of the things that's going to be absolutely critical, we're going to be focusing all our attention on here in Australia on Thursday, is the labour force release. Because if we get another slightly softer number, employment doesn't increase terribly much, or the unemployment rate ticks up another 0.1%, then that would be clear evidence that the labour market's softening, and the concerns about a price-wage spiral, is a wage-price spiral, one or the other, will not be well-founded, and that would actually just reinforce this rates on hold for at least the next couple of months if we were to get a weak labour force number on Thursday.
So in somewhat of an irony, if we came and had a tick up in the unemployment rate and perhaps didn't create some jobs, that might be good news.
Well, it'd be good news for mortgage holders indeed. Well, those of them who didn't lose their job, I suppose. But it is one of those things that, yes, the labour market is always a critical issue for most central banks when they're assessing monetary policy. And when you get the unemployment rate increasing, albeit from what was a 48-year low at 3.4% late last year, it's the direction that matters for central banks. If you've got that momentum towards a slight upturn in the unemployment rate and employment's a little bit soggy, and we do know that things like job ads, job vacancies are trending lower, they have turned, that, the good news would be that, they've got enough rate hikes in the pipeline. Some of this financial pressure and stress that's probably there for some householders highly leveraged, that, we could probably have a little bit of a sigh of relief that there's not that oppressive rate hiking cycle, still coming through the pike.
Now, the National Australia Bank Business Conditions and Business Sentiment survey is out this week. It's fairly closely watched, this one, Stephen.
It is. It's one of the charts that the RBA puts in its chart pack. It's often referred to in the RBA statements on monetary policy and these sorts of things. So they look at it. And I look at it. Lots of people look at it because it's got lots of lovely information. It's not just business confidence, business sentiment. They also have a whole lot of questions about expected hiring intentions. So it's a bit of a leading indicator on employment, what's happening to your selling prices and input prices. So that's a critical issue for the inflation momentum. And interestingly, in the last few months, they've actually tilted down. I think that's in line with the falls in a lot of energy prices. We know the price of oil's down and some of the supply chain issues are being addressed. I won't say they've been completely solved, but the supply chain problems aren't as bad today as they were, say, 6 or 9 months ago. And so it's closely watched. And if those trends continue, then we'll get, just that other snippet of information that, maybe inflation is starting to really be squeezed out of the economy, partly from global conditions, but also from the rate hikes that the RBA's delivered.
And just the other one this week locally, which is interesting, is the Westpac Consumer Sentiment Survey.
Oh, yes, and we're a miserable lot, aren't we? We consumers. Yeah, the odd thing about the consumer sentiment numbers is that at the moment we are more gloomy than we were at the worst of the COVID lockdowns. We're gloomier now than we were during the global financial crisis. What's that, 13, 14 years ago? We are really gloomy, and I think that's the power of cost of living pressures, not just those people with a mortgage, but a lot of other people, when they look at the price of their basket of goods and services that they buy every month and it's increasing more than their wages, people feel a bit annoyed, and that's why consumer sentiment's so miserable. I'm not sure whether we're going to get any rebound given the survey was done after the rate hike last week.
Are you ever gloomy, Stephen?
Oh, I'm gloomy when my horses get beaten.
Yeah. So you're gloomy a fair bit then, if that's the case.
But that's only lasts a minute or a minute and a half.
Yeah,
I'm happy after that. But look, only those sorts of things. I'm an optimist at heart. But then again, when we're chatting about the economy, you've still got to call it as you see it. And when growth's slowing, unemployment's rising, that's sort of not a nice combo. And we're, as we were just discussing, in the early stages, perhaps, of that combination coming through 2023. A little bit more will be revealed this week.
Stephen, have a great week.
Thanks, John.
As economist Stephen Koukoulas, better known as The Kook. You can find him at thekook.com and follow him on Twitter using the handle The Kook. I'm Sean Aylmer, and this is Fear and Greed, the week ahead.